Julian Gallardi Show. I'm definitely live on YouTube. I'm live on Twitter and hopefully live on TikTok, which I should find out momentarily. But gonna start today about talking about Kazuma Okamoto, and I think that he's at the forefront because I've talked about Imai a lot. I've talked about a couple other different players, but both these guys' deadlines are coming up very soon, and it's January 2nd for Imai, so that's like 3 days. And Okamoto is the 4th, so that's Sunday. Now, like we saw with Murakami, he signed the day before his deadline, and a friend of mine brought up a good point as to why that's probably a better thing to do is because you have to get the physical in. And if you sign it the day of, that might be challenging. So I could see them both being announced the day before, with Imai signing on New Year's Day, which would be very eventful, obviously, and then Okamoto signing on Saturday the 3rd. I definitely think that's all in play here, but we're going to have to see if that's how it's going to end up developing. So we will find out soon about that. Now, with Okamoto, I've heard a few things about where he might end up and whatnot, so I'm going to get into that. But before I go any further, spoiler alert, I do believe that the Pittsburgh Pirates are the best suitor for him right now. I do think they're the leader in the clubhouse. I do think their interest is sincere. And after listening to Robert Murray, a show I listen to all the time, the Baseball Insiders, he says that the Pirates are not done. And that really, to me, means that they are very much in this Okamoto pursuit. I know they're viewed as the front runners by a few people, and I'm now going to be one of those as well. But that's not to say it's a done deal that he's definitely going to the Pirates because we don't know that yet, obviously. But we have to see how all that goes. But I do think that he will end up with the Pirates, and maybe it's like a 4 for 70. Maybe it's a 4 for 68, 4 for 65, maybe even 4 for 60. And I have some other things. Okay, I got some questions I'll definitely answer. So these are all valid questions. And you know what? I am now doing a new thing. If you ask me a question, I will follow back. And one guy just gave, he hasn't gave a question and he has one of the favorite pictures on this app. I have spoken guy from The Mandalorian, so he got a follow from me. So that's a new rule. If you want me to follow back on Twitter, hit me with some questions and we'll be off to the races. So let me try to see if we're on live. We should be. Okay. I don't see it yet. It's not. Why am I not? Oh, okay, I am good. Just had to double check. Sorry about that. But other teams who I think are in this pursuit for Okamoto, the Angels are definitely involved. That's what I've been told. I know the Angels are definitely in it. I know there was some mixed signals on their pursuits of Murakami, which ended up not being sincere. Now, for the Angels, Okamoto does make a lot more sense, you could maybe say, because they do need a third baseman desperately. The Rendon situation's a clear disaster. Moncada's a free agent, and I feel like Okamoto is better suited to play third than Murakami would have been. So I do think that's a thing. Let me see. Pirates signing Okamoto percentage. Okay. I'll give it like 75. That's high, I know. But I feel 75% likelihood he signs with the Pirates. Maybe I'll lower it to 60. So here's what was told, and it's a little bit different than what was put out there by Heyman today. I know he said Red Sox and Blue Jays are in, Diamondbacks. I don't really see those as fits for him because I feel like the Red Sox are probably looking more at Bregman anyway, and I'll get to Bregman later. But the two teams that I actually think do make some sense that was told, I would say the Giants because they could use a corner guy. I know Chapman's a great third baseman. Obviously, they do have Devers at first, so at that point it was Okamoto with DH. He has played a little outfield. They could use some help in the outfield. You never know, but I don't really think he's going to end up going there. And another team that this one's interesting to me. but I could visualize the fit is the A's because the A's just gave Soderstorm that extension, and it was a good deal for them. Passan breaks the news on Christmas, of course, because baseball does not stop on Christmas, and it does not stop for Jeff Passan, obviously. And he broke the Solar Storm deal, which I'm trying to get. And that's a guy who I would have thought could have been a future Yankees fit down the line had he not been extended. But 7 years, $86 million later tells me that he will not be going anywhere. And it also includes an 8-year club option and can escalate out to 131. It's the largest deal in A's history. So let's see. Does the fact that Okamoto talked with Boris, the report is true, does that affect the Pirates' chances of getting Okamoto any? Um, yeah, I mean, obviously they have to discuss some things, and I saw the reports that he's in the States. And to be honest, I don't really think that changes much. The Pirates are going to have to give him a good offer, obviously. They were maybe interested in Murakami. I believe they may have been the runners up. So there definitely is some appetite left for them, I think. I know they signed O'Hearn. But the reason why I like this fit, and I mentioned it a lot, was because like they could use righty bats after getting Brandon Lau and O'Hearn. They still need a third baseman desperately, and you could do some mixing and matching at first. Like if O'Hearn needs a day, like some splits, like you could have Okamoto play first against righties or something like that. Although I think O'Hearn actually hit lefties pretty well from what I looked at earlier this offseason. But no, I don't think that impacts it too much. But you never know, I guess. So my teams are Pirates, Angels, Giants, and A's. Giants probably a little bit quirky, but the A's, like I didn't finish with, I can see the fit because they need a third baseman. You look at the rest of their infield, and it's pretty set. You got Wilson at shortstop. He's very good. You got Kurtz at first, obviously locked down. I know they had Urias for a while too, and Gio Urshela. I feel like I'm missing a player that's like good in their infield, so I will definitely check that right now just to make sure. But I know the A's have been loading up offensively. They just need help with pitching. But it would be interesting if they got Okamoto, but I don't actually think he's going to go there. I probably think it's Pirates or Angels right now. I'm still going to stick with that belief. I'll put the Pirates in front. Is there a chance it could get crazy and be like a 5 or 100? I mean, maybe, but Murakami got so much less than what we thought. You wonder how does that impact Okamoto? A lot of people feel that Okamoto's more ready to play, and it's Jeff McNeil. There we go. Duh. McNeil just got traded to the A's. That's their second baseman now. Third base is Max Muncy, the other Max Muncy. Not related, I don't think. But so you could definitely make an upgrade there with Muncy hitting 9 right now in their projected lineup. So, but I still think Pirates makes a ton of sense, like I said, and that would be a huge off season. I've been talking with the Pirates a little bit because they've been active with Brandon Lau and O'Hearn. If you get O'Hearn, Lau, and Okamoto, that's an offensive overhaul right there. That's three bats. I'm sure that's higher than any expectation they had going into the off season. Could Suarez be a fallback if they don't get Okamoto? I could see it maybe. I know that Suarez is getting linked to the Mets a little bit. It does kind of fit their style of like the short deals, maybe a little higher AAV. Maybe they can get him for like a 2 for 30 or like a little less than what they got Polanco for, like a 2 for 35. Now Suarez could place him first. He could be a DH for him too. He's probably better suited to play first than Polanco is, honestly. But let me get to my other caption here. But with Okamoto, they said the Mets aren't interested. I thought it would have been a great Yankees fit, honestly. I really did. But it wasn't in the cards, unfortunately, for them. So, all right, I'm up on TikTok. So, let me see if I can go in there quickly without causing a disturbance here. Let me see. Yeah, no, I don't know. All right, whatever. I can't find it for some reason, but I'll have to look at it later. Anyway, so let's get back to this talk, like why I like Okamoto. Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything about Okamoto meeting in Pittsburgh or Los Angeles first? I think that would have an impact. No, I don't know like specific meetings yet. I don't know exactly how that's gonna go. I feel like he's. I mean, we're down to like a week, so I'm gonna take some guesses here because I don't know how his process is going. But I would say logic would say he'd fly in from Japan and go to the Angels first, maybe, and then maybe he makes his way to Pittsburgh. If the Giants and A's are in there, then he could just bang them all out on the West Coast. Maybe he goes to the Padres. I don't really think they're in it though. They kind of have too much money in that infield anyway. I can't. Although there is no Luis Ariz anymore, but they did pay King. But like I don't know how much higher they're willing to stretch their questionable budget here. So I mean, I would guess he'd probably start out west to maybe go into Pittsburgh, but maybe it's reversed. Maybe he goes east to west. I mean, if the Red Sox and Blue Jays are in it, he's not going to have time to meet with multiple teams if it's only a week. Like, unless he's just doing this all like 2 a days or something, just taking a jet with Scott. But like, I don't think he's going to be with Scott the whole time because Scott has to handle other players too, and he's going to have to handle Imai. But I mean, obviously that could impact it. I guess like could it be in a situation where the Angels give an offer he can't refuse, and then the Pirates have to match it? It's possible. Like I said, I did hear something interesting on TikTok. Someone who worked with the Swallows told me that that Murakami wants to be in a big market. That's why he chose the White Sox over the Pirates. So that could make some sense. It doesn't seem like Okamoto has that same desire. There hasn't been anything stated about if he wants to be East or West. Like it's been very a mysterious process. There's just been a lot of smoke around the Pirates, and I think where there's smoke, there's fire. I really do. If they don't get him, then what could be some fallbacks? Like I said, Gino, and then maybe they trade for someone I'm not thinking about because like I don't expect them to go on like the Bregman, Tucker, Bichette, or Tucker Waters, obviously. But they could still make an impact with Suarez and some other stuff. Maybe they definitely need some righty pop. There's no question about that. And that's something that Okamoto could do. He does have a 40 home run season. Last year he didn't play as much due to injury, so it's tough to look at those numbers. But he did play in the WBC, and I was looking before. I was looking up the homer before about off Kyle Freeland, so I definitely thought that was noteworthy. But we're gonna have to see how everything progresses with that. But he had two bombs in WBC. I'm pretty sure he's gonna play in it again, most likely. So that's definitely interesting to see how that might go. But anyway, we shall move forward and go back into this Mets talk that I was about to get into. Unless there's more Okamoto questions, I don't see anything. I'll check Twitter, but they're actually coming through on my feed in here as well. So I wish I could see that what was going on Twitter, but I mean TikTok, but whatever. So I just hit you back with a follow Tacticus. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think I saw another Pirates person. I'll just follow back as well. So yeah, so Heyman said a lot of stuff about the Mets today, but he's obviously talking on Boris's behalf a lot of times. So that's definitely an issue, I would say. But he did say that they are lukewarm for Amber Valdez. They don't want to go the years it's going to take to get him, but they would do him on their terms. He did say they have interest in Tariq Skubal, which obviously makes a lot of sense for them down the line. If they do a trade, I don't think so. Probably not. I think he's going to stay, like I've said a lot. But it is a guy that they could sign during free agency for sure. And I think that it's definitely something that I'm paying attention to. So we'll see what they do there. I do like the Suarez fit for the Mets because they've kind of dwindled their first base options. I'm not really sure what's left for them. They're not going to do Okamoto. O'Haron's gone, so Murakami's gone. Could they do a Yandy Diaz trade? I guess, but it's going to cost a lot. Are they willing to pay that price? I don't know. But they definitely need some righty pop to replace Pete Alonso, which they still haven't really done because Marcus Simeon does not really do that. And Jorge Polanco's also a switch hitter, which will help a little bit. But again, where are all those home runs coming from? And yes, I know you can win with other things other than home runs, but you still want to replace what you had, and they haven't quite done that yet. So is that a Suarez? Could he put up a similar number to Pete with home runs? He absolutely could. So But there's also some alarming stuff about how he could possibly regress. He is getting up there in age. He didn't have a great second half with the Mariners after getting traded from Arizona. He was a great hitter with the D-backs. He loves hitting in that ballpark. So, yeah, let me make sure to plug in so we don't lose the feed here. That would not be good. Okay, we should be good now, so that's great. But so we'll see what happens with that. Let me get to my other talking points here. Well, no, let's do Fairbanks first, actually. So, Fairbanks signs with the Marlins in a 1-year deal, 13 million. So he ends up getting 2 million more than what was on his Rays deal. And I thought it was a good move for the Marlins. It was kind of necessary since they lost Hernandez. So, I mean, it really is just a matter of preference at that point. And they wanted to get Fairbanks. They needed a closer. They did it. He was the best option left on the market, and they were able to work something out with him, and that's a good deal for them. So we'll have to see what happens, but we'll go. We'll see. Like the reliever market's flying like crazy. Hunter Harvey signed with the Cubs. All these guys the Yankees could have had are well off the board now. The only guy left that, like I've mentioned numerous times, and I'll continue to because he's still unsigned, is Michael Kopech. Now, is there a match there? Could they get him for 5 mil or less because he was really banged up? I don't know. Is he looking for 10 plus? Is that why he's still out there? He did win a World Series in 2024, and he did have a pretty good run with the Dodgers after he was traded from the White Sox. I mean, last year he kind of got to throw it away almost because he really was hurt a lot. Now, who else has signed that in the recent times? Maton went to the Cubs too. Obviously, Soto went to the Pirates a while ago. White Sox got Anthony Kay. Cubs got Caleb Thayer. And then the Reds got Ferguson. White Sox signed Newcomb. That's a new move. Rangers got Chris Martin back. Like I mentioned in other shows, the Angels got Pomegranates. A's got Leiter. I actually don't think I talked about that yet, so it's another loss of the Yankees bullpen, for better or worse. I know some didn't like him, some did, but like the Yankees didn't really have any external additions. It's all been re-signs like Blackburn, Harbo, Rosario, Grisham, and the qualifying offer, which I'm going to get to also as well, because there's definitely a lot of controversy around that. The Cubs also signed Jacob Webb, so they really have been beefing up their bullpen. So there's been a lot of player activity there, but none of it's really come from the Yankees adding anything new. So I mean, the Rangers also signed Alexis Diaz a while ago, and I think I mentioned this too. Hamilton went to the Braves, and Zach Pop went to the Phillies. So that's like how the reliever market's looking. Kopech is one of the few guys with upside that throws gas left on the free agent market. I know people want the Yankees to make a deal with the Rays for Garrett Clevenger. Would they consider moving him as they're kind of reworking some stuff? I mean, who knows? They did do a trade with the Orioles, so you can't rule out the interdivision trades. They've actually done a few deals with Baltimore. Haven't really done money with the Yankees. It was Caballero last year, so you got to see how that looks as well. So yeah, let's try to go forward now with like the best of the rest. So like, yo, what's up, Chris? How you doing, brother? Thanks for popping in. I really appreciate it. My boy Javi saying 2021 house clean, and we'll get to that too because that's definitely warranted. So now, I guess I could answer some other questions too while I do this, but I kind of want to talk about the Bellinger and Grisham situation. Then I'll graduate to other questions because they're Yankees questions. Now, the situation here is that Trent Grisham was offered a qualifying offer a while ago. He took it for 22 million. Now, you can make an argument that kind of messed up the Yankees offseason plans since they haven't really done much else, but I don't know if I would go that direction just because we still don't know. They still have Cody Bellinger out on the field. They still could, in theory, sign Kyle Tucker again, which I would advise them to do, even if it's not likely. But that's a whole other discussion. And I'll be brief with that because I've brought that up so many times already. They still have some trade options. They mentioned Alcantara again, but I think there's a bridge and gap in talks, like a wide range of how the Marlins perceive Sandy, how the rest of the league perceives Sandy at this point. I think that he's somewhere in between what we saw last year and his Cy Young form in 2022. And I think the Marlins are viewing him more as a Cy Young pitcher, which isn't necessarily fair because he's not that guy anymore. He has 2 years left at some semi-high salary if he doesn't live up to his potential at 17 million and 21 million. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, I definitely thought it was possible, but the Marlins haven't balked off their price, it seems. So now I don't know if how possible that really is. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But again, like looking at the situation with Bellinger and Grisham, you have to think, is it worth bringing both of them back? They brought one back. Now, here's the thing with Trent. They didn't have to offer the qualifying offer. They could have chose not to, but they did it. And I don't know if they thought he would accept or not accept. That's definitely been controversial as well. But I think that it was a mistake because it's just too much money to commit to him for a season. It's just not like what you need. Like I just don't know if it was worth 22 million. Yeah, Sandy too injury prone for me. I'll pass. I mean, yeah, he has battled some stuff, but he did have a full season of health last year, so maybe he's figuring it out. But he has gone through a lot. There was a big Tommy John procedure, obviously, that kind of changed a lot for him. So yeah, but with Grisham, like honestly, I think it's just the Yankees didn't really have another option. Because if you do that, like my friend David said, like you give Boris all the leverage if Grisham wasn't retained. If he hits the open market, does the team give him 2 or 3 years? The Yankees don't feel like doing that. I don't know. I feel like they wanted to give him a year to see if he could do it again, and that's how the qualifying offer came into play because they don't want to be tied down to an Aaron Hicks situation again if he doesn't produce or if it was a flash in the pan. Now, a couple of things suggest it wasn't. There are some good metrics, but the way he ended the season, the postseason, gives me a lot of cause for concern. He was 3 for 34 in that 7 game stretch, and he was not good at all. So his defense also took a step back, but he was also playing hurt. So do they think he could be better fully healthy? I'm sure they do. And if he does what he does last year, and he is worth 22 million, no questions asked. But will he do it again? I don't fully know about that. But I don't think he's going to be a bust per se. I think he'll be decent still. I just don't know if he can replicate what he did last year. That's my concern with that deal. And could they have re-signed him to a lesser number had they not given the qualifying offer? Maybe, but then probably would have taken more years. Could you get to the 2 for 30 or like a 3 for 45? I'm sure it would have been possible, but that's not the route they chose to go. Now, when you look at the luxury tax, I think they're at 285 range around maybe 287 after Blackburn. So, like I said, I still think they're going to go over 300 million because if you get Bellinger back, and I still think they will, by the way, I think that automatically puts you over. I think that what's going to end up happening with Cody Bellinger is that you're playing the classic game of Scott Boras chicken here. You know what he wants? He wants 6 or 7 years. Yankees might be in the 4 to 5 category, maybe, and they're just not matching up. Now, there's no other known offers out there, really. It's not like it's fully known what the Yankees are offering numerically. You know, I've heard 5 for 140 floated around. I don't know how legit that is. Could it be a 4 for 120 with an option for a 5th year? I could see something like that being possible. I think that might be what they end up settling on. I don't think he's going to go for another opt-out deal because he's already done that before, and I think he just wants to get paid. Like he's looking to get his long-term deal as long as any team's willing to go. And right now, no team is willing to match the price that they're putting out there, so that's why he's still sitting here as we get close to the new year. That's my thoughts on that. And if the Mets really wanted him, he would be a Met by now. So I don't think he's going to the Mets either because they could have easily had him by now. So I don't think he's going there. Now, do the Angels step in here? If Dominguez is still on the roster, I hope he beats out Grisham in the second half of the season. I think that's another reason why Grisham only got 1 year because they do have Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez, and I do feel at least one of them is going to factor into their long term plans eventually. Now, I don't know which one it is. I don't know how they view Spencer Jones. I know he's gotten a lot of mixed reviews, but the Yankees org is high on him, apparently, from what I was told in the winter meetings. But that's another clip I'm going to have to put out later, but that's another discussion. So I think that they will end up keeping one of them, at least if Bellinger gets re signed. Is there a world where Austin Hayes could come in? Maybe. Not with Bellinger, I don't think. But if let's say the Angels come out of nowhere and give Bellinger an offer he can't refuse, something like that, then maybe the Yankees sign Austin Hayes to platoon with Dominguez, and then you keep Spencer Jones at that point. Now, if the Yankees re-sign Bellinger, you have to trade one of them because it's just too many outfielders again, and one of them's just not going to play. Yes, Stanton's going to get hurt, obviously, but that only accounts for one of them because Grisham's locked in at center, Judge is locked in at right, Bellinger will be locked in at left. So, again, that cuts the time for Dominguez. And Spencer Jones hasn't made his debut yet. We'll see what happens if he has a good camp or if they trade him for a pitcher or something. Now, some other pitchers that are being discussed besides Sandy Alcantara are Freddie Peralta, which I've heard mixed things if the Yankees have a shot or not. I know the Yankees are definitely trying, but it depends. Are the Brewers actually willing to do it? Like I said, my other show, like I've heard mixed things there. Like one person told me they think it could happen, another person said they don't think he's going to get traded. So I think Freddie Peralta is the guy to get personally. Low key, I think in the right situation, Zach Gallen could be a good signing. Yeah, I think Gallen still has upside. I could see the Mets taking a flyer on Gallen more so than the Yankees because they might be able to get him for 3 or 4 years with some opt outs and like some decent AAV. I just don't really think the Yankees have the appetite to sign a free agent pitcher right now, unfortunately. I wouldn't mind Gallen. Hell, I wouldn't mind Valdez, but that won't happen for a million different reasons. Ranger Suarez, another guy. The only issue is you want three lefties, and that's where Mackenzie Gore comes into play. Mackenzie Gore is another guy that has been linked to the Yankees repeatedly, but the Nationals haven't gotten anything done with him yet. Would I be stunned if the Yankees got Mackenzie Gore? No. But do I expect it at the same time? No. I can't say I do. But I do think there's a shot they do trade for an arms definitely that's been circulating a lot. Those are definitely the three names to keep an eye on because Minnesota doesn't seem like they want to move Ryan or Lopez right now. Schoolball's not realistic for the Yankees. So I do think Gallen has some upside. I could see the Angels signing Zach Gallen. The Angels and the Mets kind of make some sense for Gallen. I did pick Angels. So we'll see. With Imai, let's get to Imai now because he is one of the bigger names left. So, and he will be. We will be back here on I think Friday is Amai's deadline technically. So I will definitely be doing a show Friday. It's whenever wherever he signs. Although like I said, I think it might drop the day before. So maybe I'll adjust into the show Thursday. But Thursday or Friday, I'll be back when we get the Imai news. Now where do I think he ends up? I mean, it's tough for me to see the Yankees as fully out, despite what we've heard. I think they could still be involved low key, especially if the market crashes to a point where they weren't expecting it to, like it's only a 4 for 60 or like a 4 for 80 or maybe a 5 for 95 or something like that. I'm just throwing out numbers. I don't know what he's actually going to get, to be honest. Like, it's very murky. Same thing with Okamoto. It's not as certain either, but we've seen templates of those deals before. Maybe what did I mean? I think Imanaga got what 3 for 75 from the Cubs originally. Is it possible that he might get something like that from the Cubs? Now, I think the Cubs are in there. I do. I know there's been some mixed reporting, but I do think the Cubs have a shot still. I think the Phillies are definitely a dark horse. The Yankees could be involved, maybe, maybe not. The Mets actually may be the ones lurking for Imai because, they have the need for a starting pitcher. Would they be willing to commit to him more because he's 27 opposed to some of the guys that are in their 30 range, like Suarez, Valdez, and Gallen? It's definitely possible. I would say Mets, Cubs, Phillies. I'm still watching the Padres because, let me see the shot here. I'm still watching the Padres because you never know what they could do. It's ridiculous that the Yankees haven't met with them. I agree with you 100%. The only thing is that, like, I don't know who he has met with. I think they should at least have a meeting, though. And on all honesty, even if it's just to learn about more Japanese arms or the process of how they feel, or like just to learn some information that could be useful down the line. Like the Yankees very well should meet with Imai. Did they do it over Zoom that we don't know about? I don't know. Like they didn't say they wouldn't meet with him, but they didn't say that they would. Yes, the Yankees and Imai, I've said it a million times. It makes so much sense because, yeah, he's not Yamamoto. No, he is not. But he could still be like a solid two or a three. Like my friend Smith Brickner said, think of him more as an Imanaga type, which is still a good pitcher, obviously. And the Imanaga's look dominant at times, but he's not quite as shut down as Yamamoto. So if you can get someone like that, put him in like the three spot probably because it's like or a four even with Cole Radone and Freed. They're like opening day it'd probably be two because you have just Freed for opening day. Those guys Schlittler three like Freed and my Schlittler Heel Warren. That's not bad even without Cole and Rodone. That can get you through a month or two, and you can be looking very presentable at that point. Or do you even trade a Warner Heel at that point because you have Imai and then you let Yarbo or Elmer Cruz get the five spot? And or not Blackburn. I don't think he'll actually end up starting games, but I guess crazier things have happened, right? So you can never have enough starting pitching depth, and it's definitely something that you always want to build on. Build on the strength, and you can build on the strength. That's what I would say, and the Yankees have to do that because I don't see it. Their bullpen's not a strength. And I don't know what they're doing with that. They lost Weaver, they lost Williams, they lost Hamilton, they lost Leiter. Probably going to lose a while ago that we barely pitched, but they lost a lot of bodies in that bullpen. And yes, Jake Bird's going to return. Duvall you'll have for a full season, Bednar, so that'll help. And then Fernando Cruz, but that bullpen needs work. Like there's no question about it. And getting a guy like Imai is the best way to shore up the bullpen because you get starters that can give you at least six. That's how you save your bullpen. If you have to deal with this situation with Yarbo or Blackburn or or Elmer not being quite ready yet for the show, then you're going to expose your bullpen early in the season. It gets tired later in the season. We've seen this happen so many times before. So the best way to solve that issue is get starting pitchers that give you six plus. And the Yankees have a few of those guys. Cole when he's healthy, obviously. Rodon showed to go six around six to start last year. Max Fried was going six plus. Even Cam Schlittler when he got in there was going deep in the game. So that's why the Yankees should sign Imai, especially if the price is not as crazy as what we originally thought. But is there a way that it still gets high? He gets like a six for 150 or something. I mean, yeah, I guess. Could it go? It doesn't seem like it's gonna go in the C's range. I think it'll be under seven for 210. But like I said, you never know what can happen with that. So we'll see with Imai. It's just been a very mysterious process. The fact the Yankees haven't met with him is not encouraging, obviously, unless they did it virtually, we don't know about it. But the thing that Jack said that struck with me is that the Yankees don't have the same hunger and appetite, basically, paraphrasing a little bit here, but they just don't have the same desire as it to get Yamamoto. And I get it. I mean, he's not as good as Yamamoto, but he is still a good pitcher. And I think I'm pretty sure he's thrown his WBC. He'll probably do it again this year. He's experienced high levels of competition. He wants to beat the Dodgers. He wants to be great. He has good stuff, like fastball and breaking stuff is still there. So I think it's a deal the Yankees should make. And I'll dive deeper into his pitch mix, his arsenal, and like what I would expect more like once he signs by Friday, so or Thursday. So that's when I'll be back. But let me go through. I did say I was going to hit these Yankees questions. I promise I did not forget. So now we will get to these Yankees questions here as we transition. So again, like you look at the four free agents right now, the big bats: Tucker, Bellinger, Bregman, and Bichette. Now the Blue Jays are very involved with Tucker and Bichette. I don't really buy the Alex Bregman connection as much. I just don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just really don't see that fit. And I think it's a leverage thing against Bichette, honestly, and maybe even Tucker. So, all right. Now we will do the I have spoken guy first because that is goaded. But okay, so now I'll get that question in there, and it's a good one. And I definitely will give you my best answer here. Does Kodai Senga give the Mets some pull to get Imai? Um, I don't know because Imai doesn't want to play with Japanese players apparently, so I'm not sure. And then the other problem is that Senga might end up getting traded, so I don't know how much he's talked to Imai if he has or hasn't. Maybe they have. I also question like the Cubs because there's two Japanese players there, but I think it was more in terms of like playing with all the Japanese guys in the Dodgers. I don't think he would straight up not play with any Japanese players. I think he just doesn't want to be on a team that's full of Japanese players because he wants to create his own path and his own legacy, and he could do that with Senga and still because it's still only one other pitcher, and he could do that with the Cubs because Imai and Seiya Suzuki are both on 1 year deals, so they might not even stick around. Well, they both have 1 year left in their contract or whatever. So I think that it could be. I don't know for sure, but it's definitely a good point worth bringing up. So thanks, Chris. Um, Everyone check out their podcast too, Pinstripes Uncensored with Anthony, my other friend. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do for that in year two. So shout out to the boys there. So all right, let's get this question in. Here we go. It's about like the Yankees off-season plans and like what they think that we might end up doing, or the Yankees. Sorry, if the Yankees might end up doing. My bad. All right, so here we go. All right, let me put myself on the side. Nope, not like that. Okay, give us predictions for the rest of the Yankee offseason. Who do we sign and who do we trade for? Okay, so I'm gonna challenge myself here a little bit, and I would say that. And shout out to member 562. I have spoken, guys. So I'll say they re-sign Bellinger. We'll start there. I think they end up getting some other type of righty bench bat to compete in camp, like someone like Nick Torres, but like with MLB experience, maybe if that makes sense. And the Yankees did sign Nick Torres. He was the Mexican League MVP last year, and Liga Mexicana de Baseball for the El Ganadores de Union Laguna, and he had a great year. I think it was like 32 bombs, 79 RBIs, and he's been playing in that league for a while. Now, could they find a similar success they did with Jesse Escaro with this guy? It's possible. I mean, you never know what could happen. A lot of guys are making it out of different leagues these days, so will he crack camp with the Yankees? I doubt it, but could he go to Double A or Triple A and work his way up? Sure, especially if there's injuries and depth. But like this bench is very unsettled right now because I was looking at it the other day. It's really just Oswaldo Cabrera. Volpe's gonna be hurt, so he's not on it. It's Oswaldo Cabrera, Caballero when Volpe gets back, and then you would have Ahmed Rosario, Ascara, and then maybe Spencer Jones. So I gave Bellinger re-signing maybe some type of righty first baseman I'm not thinking about as Rice Insurance because I don't know how well Rosario could play first. I can't really think of a name because there's not much else out there. Like Reese Hoskins is probably too much for what they'd be willing to pay. I don't know if he would take a bench role to try to win a championship. He would be a decent fit maybe in a platoon role. Is there a world where they I think they trade. I think they might trade for a starting pitcher. It's tough for me to pinpoint who because I'm not so sure about the Freddie Peralta connection. Relievers, I'll say they somehow figured out with Kopech. And then I'm trying to think of closers that are like something else. They're not going to go for closers probably. I'll say, let me try to think of a good starting pitching name here. You know what? Let's go with Mackenzie Gore, I guess, just by default right now. If another name emerges, then we can talk about that. But I think he's the most realistic option because you know the Nationals want to trade him, and you know the Yankees have interest. Now, Mackenzie Gore is very Jekyll and Hyde. Great stuff, but sometimes control is questionable. He gives up a lot of bombs, but I do think that it's definitely a guy that can improve with the Yankees. So you want three lefties in your rotation. Like I said, I'm not fully sure about that, but that's kind of how I see this going. Is there a way they can add an infielder somewhere as well? Let's see. I mean, Mackenzie Gore's walks per nine are pretty high. Yeah, 3.8 is definitely a problem. Home runs per nine, 1.2. I mean, I guess it's not terrible. Could be better, obviously. But sometimes he just has a tendency to get lit up. If you want to give me one more infielder, I mean, the Seager idea is probably dead, unfortunately. I mean, you know what? I'll give you another possibility too. Brendan Donovan and Jojo Romero. I wouldn't close the door on that. Although I think that the two issues with that is one, Romero doesn't throw hard, and they want someone that throws hard. Two is that Donovan's lefty and he righties, but hey, they're good baseball players. They can figure out the rest of it later. So, like, I would have wanted Wilson Contreras. He's not an option anymore. Lars Nootbaar doesn't really make sense because the Yankees have a bunch of lefties already. And I will say something that might cause a stir here, but if the Angels cut, I mean, Angels, if the Cardinals cut Nolan Arenado, I would definitely consider taking a flyer on him if I was the Yankees, because at that point, why not? You don't have to pay anything for him, basically. You could help out McMahon at third and Rosario, but think about how much better McMahon could get offensively. Although him and Arenado, I think, were teammates for a little while in Colorado. I have to fact check myself, but I'm almost positive that they were. Although I'm not fully sure because they both played the same position. But no, McMahon was there in 2017, and so was Nolan, I believe. I think Nolan left the Cardinals in 19. I'm pretty sure he left the Rockies in 19. Yeah, so they were teammates for 4 years actually. So I'm sure they would like to play with each other again, maybe. I'm not saying the Yankees should definitely do it, but if he's a free agent, he's cut, and it doesn't cost any money, there's no harm in doing it. So that's my thought there. But, we'll have to see if they want to follow the same pattern. So that's kind of what's going on now. I will definitely think about some other possibilities as we keep going forward here. So that's what we'll do. But yeah, so I'll get to the other question too, and then I'll talk about the Bregman situation and Tucker and Bichette. Then we'll probably get going. Like the stuff that's being reported about Ranger Suarez and Framber and like the Braves' interest is definitely sincere from what I've heard. I know the Giants are looking around for starting pitching too. Are they X factor for Imai still, despite the reports they didn't want to spend that much? But the ring with Valdez, they gotta be willing to spend. So that's a contradictory report there. So you never know what can come of that. But I will definitely round this up and go through that. But let's see. So, all right, let me get my other question. See if I got any other ones. I just had the spot. Great. So, I'll get it back. I think it was definitely another off-season type question, though. Like something similar to the other one I got, but I'll make sure to answer it differently if I can figure out a way to do that, which I probably will. So, yeah, I don't really know. Someone said trade for bullpen help, but I'm not really sure where that would be coming from, unfortunately, because I don't really know what bullpen options are. Like, being traded now, so maybe Clevenger, I guess. So that's a possibility. So here we go. Let's see how this would look. All right, my second question is in here now. I actually do like this one. Shout out to H Dubs H Double H. I think he's asked me some questions before, so I do appreciate that. Hit him with a follow back. And let's see. Let's see. I actually like all of these, so this is going to be good. It's actually talking about MPB players too, and like why I think they haven't gotten as much traction, which actually I can't really fully explain, but I'll try my best. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, I like this better actually. Is it better to pivot from Bellinger the longer the process drags out, or risk not having their pick of other free agents that could help the team? Why is the why is the market really slow this year? Is Boris the holdup? That's two questions. And the third one, why aren't the MBB players getting much traction compared to the last 2 years? Okay. So for the first one, yes, you can make the argument that it's better for them to do other stuff. And I have made that argument before. Now, like I said, if I would just pivot to Kyle Zucker or Bo Bichette even, but they won't do that. Now, the Bichette thing is very interesting because you could have him go to short and Jazz play second while Volpe's hurt. And then when Jazz comes back, you would have to figure out what to do with Volpe, I guess, or keep him on the bench. But the Yankees aren't going to do this. I'm really just talking the hypothetical senses here. But if they did, like, it could work because you could have Bo play second and let Jazz walk at the end of the year. I'm actually a proponent of keeping Jazz now. With Jazz, like I know a bunch of stuff's been controversial on social media. I don't really care about any of that because he can play in between the lines. A 30 for 30 don't grow on trees. Could he do 40-40 next year if he's fully healthy? I mean, sure, you never know. He has the ability to. That's the scary thing. So you want to give up a 40-40 guy because you think he's annoying on social media? No, no. And I'm not doing that. But again, like, is it worth trading him? Like, what would you get in return? The only way you do that is if you got like an ace. But the Nationals or Brewers, maybe Nationals, but not Brewers, are not going to want Jazz Chisholm because they're not going to want to pay him. So that decreases his value right there. You have to basically find a team that's willing to pay him in his walk year because they're not going to give you that much if it's a 1 year situation. I mean, he's not like a Soto or a Scooble, but he is very good, obviously. So I still think the Yankees should keep him, and I think they will. Now, the most logical pivot to losing to Bellinger is clearly Tucker, and that's where I think the Yankees' mind should be. And maybe they are doing it quietly. There hasn't been much talk about it. I know like they've talked a little bit, but like I don't think any definitive has been laid down by the Yankees. Now, if that's the case, then they probably won't get him. But the longer it goes, you never know. Like, what if they can get an 8 for 320 somehow? Like, it doesn't have to go 9 or 10. Like, would they consider it at that point? Because, like I've been saying, they tried to trade for him last year, and they knew they were going to have to do this. So I don't think he did enough in Chicago to completely change their minds. I guess you never know, but personally, to me, it was the guy playing her in a ballpark that's not great for lefty hitters. I know Michael Bush powered through, but you saw what happened with Bellinger when he went from Chicago to New York. And I think Tucker's better than Bellinger, so I could see a similar spike up in production. But so yeah, I think you could make that case because the only problem with that is it limits you in trades because you don't know if you can trade Dominguez or Jones if you're not bringing Bellinger back. You have to keep both of them, and those two could be used to get the starting pitcher you're looking for, like a Peralta, Gore, or maybe Edwin Cabrera, because that's a guy that's been talked about as well. I just don't know if the Yankees have the prospect package to get Cabrera, which is why I haven't really mentioned him in the Yankees that much. But it's definitely possible, I guess. I think those are the guys I'm really looking at from a Yankees perspective. Chris Buba could be another one, but again, a lefty. I don't know if the Yankees will go down that route. But if they like Gore, maybe they want Bubick. Um, I would not mind taking a flyer on Pablo Lopez. I know he's hurt, but the Yankees do have a lot of depth, and if you're going to bring in a guy that would be a guy with high upside still. He's not too old yet in his 30s, so I think Pablo Lopez is definitely an intriguing name. He's definitely been a guy I've liked a lot in the past. The cost would be way less than Joe Ryan, which the Yankees probably can't afford realistically in a trade if he was available, which he probably isn't. Lopez is 29, by the way. Didn't mean to age you wrong, Pablo. So, um, so that's my first question. Yes, I would make the case you're right because I don't think Cody Bellinger's worth holding up your offseason for. I've said that numerous times, and I still don't think that's the case. I still think that's the case that he's not worth holding up your offseason for. I would be doing other stuff immediately if I was them. I mean, look, Bellinger is going to be there for a while, probably. You know how Boris is. And the more time they get smoked, the more targets they get off the clock, and the tougher things get for the Yankees, and the trade talks get tougher, and all, the whole 9 yards. So I agree. I think there has to be some type of movement first week of January with the Yankees. If there's not, then I don't know. But again, this is off season has not been great. And now we're going to talk why is the market moving slow? Is it Boris? Yes. Honestly, it probably is, if we're going to be honest. I mean, he's controlling a lot of this. Now, Imai and Okamoto are going to be off the board very soon. And yes, I will get to your third question as well about why the traction might not be the same. But in terms of the second one, he has Bregman. He doesn't have Bichette, I don't think. He has Ranger Suarez, I believe. He has Framber Valdez. So he does control a lot of the top arms. Zach Gallen, another one. Obviously, like I said, Imai Okamoto. I know, I I don't think he has Bichette. I know he doesn't have Tucker. He obviously has Bellinger. He did get Pete Alonso signed to a greater deal than anyone thought, though, and he got that done relatively quickly. So credit where credit's due. But yeah, Boris, he's definitely a culprit for this. There's no question. Like he is, his hands are all over this offseason, unfortunately. And sometimes when you play that game with him, it goes into January, it goes into February, and sometimes it even goes into March. So I don't think the Yankees can afford to wait until February or March at this point. I think they have to do something next month, and it has to be something impactful, even if it's not bringing back Bellinger. Is there a world, like I said, that you do Austin Hayes and then you trade for some pitching and get an infielder we're not expecting? Like, I don't know, but they got to figure out something soon because this current team is not it. I think it's interesting that they're plus 800 to win the World Series, which is second behind the Dodgers. West Vegas thinks they're cooking something. Are they going to get Imai? Is there something? Is Bellinger coming back sooner than we think? Like, I don't know, but I just don't think they're the second best team in the league right now, as currently constituted. You look across the division, and the Orioles got better. They also added their old buddy Zach Eflin back to the team. So that's interesting. They also did a lot of other stuff this offseason. They've been busy. The Reds got J.J. Boudet. A lot of Red fans aren't happy going from Schwarber to Robert to Boudet, apparently. I still think Robert could be a Mets target, by the way. I definitely do. So, Dane Myers got traded to the Reds, too. So, that was interesting. But let me see what's going on here. There was a trade. The Marlins get Esteury Ruiz, and the Dodgers get Adrian Marrero. So yeah, the stove is on fire. Let me just say. Now the third question to this is why aren't the MVP players getting much traction compared to the last 2 years? I don't know honestly, because like I really thought that, and that's the speedster for the A's, by the way, who was the A's to all those bases and Dodgers, Marlins. So yeah, but I thought that they would get a lot of traction because of the success of Yamamoto and some of these other guys that have come over, the Imanagas, the Seiya Suzuki's. Now, with Japanese hitters, it's been more rare to find. You have Ichiro Matsui, obviously, Deki, not Kazuma, the other Kazuma, or Casimir, my bad there. But regardless of that, like I'm not sure because I really feel like the game is globally in a better spot than it's been with the WBC. I feel like more people are paying attention to the MPB. Is it just like teams colluding together to lowball them because they have deadlines? I don't know. Murakami, I think the issue was just a swing and miss. They couldn't ignore a swing and miss. They're worried he's going to be the next Joey Gallo. I think that's what happened with Murakami. Now we'll see what happens with Okamoto. I'm assuming he's going to get more than Murakami. Might be double what Murakami gets because he's a more sure thing. He's a safer bet because he hits for better contact. His defense is better. He doesn't have as much pop, but his floor is way higher than Murakami's, but his ceiling is also way lower than Murakami's. So it's a much safer investment from that standpoint. So, like I said, I expect him to get at least like somewhere in the range of 60 to 75 minimum, like 40 years, maybe five. That's what I think he can get. And for Imai, like I'm not sure why he hasn't gotten the concrete offers yet. I don't know if teams are just waiting to try to pin him into the corner so he has to take less than he was hoping to get because he's not as hyped up as Yamamoto. But I guess like, or is it the lockout and teams being careful because they want to not overspend because there might be a cap? Like, is that part of the Yankees issue too? Because Hal, remember, he's in favor of a salary cap, which is obviously ridiculous for a multitude of reasons, but he is. And I don't know if that's part of the reason why he's slow playing the offseason. Like, I don't know what the Yankees' full canvas is right now, but I know they've lost some talent. They still have an opportunity to get a bunch of talented players. And I'm going to end with the best players available in the offseason. So, no, that's got to go. And this has to go. And so is this. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about Alex Bregman. So for Bregman, like I had heard a while ago through the grapevine that him and the Tigers were not fit again, and that the Tigers were not happy with how the process played out last time. There was some bad blood between the two sides because they had the highest offer. He didn't go there. Then I heard some stuff that they got close to what he wanted, but not exactly. Like but he still had the highest offer from Detroit and he didn't take it. So apparently they're not in the running again for him. Now, I still think the Tigers need to add a right-handed impact bat somewhere. I spoke to someone who was on the Baseball Insiders that does Tigers stuff, and they share similar thoughts to me. But I'll go deeper into that next show probably. I don't know what they could really do. If they're not going to get Gino, like, I'm not really sure where that big righty bat's coming from because Hoskins is redundant with Torkelson, and they're probably not going to get Bichette, obviously. So that kind of limits them. Maybe they can make a trade for Marte. They have been rumored for Gattel a little bit. I don't know exactly where he would play, but that would make them a hell of a lot better. So I think that's something worth exploring for them. Now, with Bregman, I think it's going to come down to the D backs and the Red Sox. I don't really trust the Cubs still. I think the Cubs are kind of just putting out feelers to see if they can get him on a bargain. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's getting at least 4+ years. He does not want to do this again. There's not going to be opt outs. He just wants his money. He wants the largest deal on the table. And I think he will be a Diamondback as long as they trade Ketel Marte. If they don't trade Ketel Marte, I wouldn't be shocked if he goes back to Boston, honestly. Just because they still haven't gotten that big bat per se. Yes, they did get Wilson Contreras and that helps, but like they did say there was space for two bats and there's still space for one more in theory, and that could be Bregman. But so that's how I'm feeling with the Alex Bregman situation. I mean, the Mets are obviously not involved, otherwise they could have got it done. I think it's a good Mets fit, though, kind of, although it would just place Beatty, which I wouldn't love. Unless you do Beatty left field, Bregman third base, that's some of the righty power you would need to replace Alonso. I mean, yeah, that could be possible, though I think Brett's a great third baseman, so that might not be the best move for him. But Yankees obviously will not get Bregman. Could you make a reason why it makes sense? Yes, righty bat, better than McMahon, but he hasn't hit well in the state. His numbers will not translate well to the stadium power wise, and yeah, I don't need to say why else they won't sign him. Like it is what it is. It's been a while ago, but the Yankees and Alex Bregman don't have any love lost for each other. Let's just put it that way. So Bichette, I still think he probably ends up back with the Blue Jays. I really do, unless they get Tucker. And then maybe Bichette goes to Boston instead of Bregman. So could there be a triangle thing going on there? Maybe. It's definitely possible. But I think that's all I got time for today. I'll throw up my tags if I can find them, hopefully. And here we go. Okay, so subscribe to me on YouTube. It's Julian Gallardi and Julian Gallardi Show. You search my name, you find it. Going close to 450 now, trying to hit 500 before the new year. See if we could do it. Get half that thing needed for the subs, for the monetization. That'd be great. TikTok, which I am somehow live on, even though I don't see it. Just search my name, Julian Gallardi. I'm there. Instagram is Julian Gallardi 11, and Twitter, which everyone's seeing me on as well, is Julian Gallardi.